A very warm welcome to one and all for attending this webinar on cybersecurity. I am Ruma Sareen from Jagran New Media and I'm excited to have you all with us today. Month of October is celebrated as the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and JagranJosh and Temple University, Philadelphia have joined hands to educate our teenagers and young adults about the importance of cybersecurity. There are a series of events planned for everyone, like online sessions, poster making, slogan writing contest, and video making contest. We request you to participate in all the contests and win exciting rewards. Let's talk about today's session. So today's session is on the topic why cybersecurity and the CIA Triad. And I would like to welcome our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Sachin Kalra, who is the Global Solutions Manager, Cybersecurity and Application Security at Google, with 18 plus years of experience in the field of technology and thought leadership. He is a certified professional in the field of information security and has been contributing in the cybersecurity space for years. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for the warm introduction. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, without further ado, let's begin with today's session. Over to you, sir.
So good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining me from. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. As Ruma mentioned, my name is Sachin Kalra. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada, and it is my honor to be presenting this particular talk, introducing cybersecurity to you all and talking about CIA Triad. Some of the topics that you can expect me to talk about over the next 40-50 minutes is why cybersecurity is important. And when I do that, I would like to share some quick statistics with you all in terms of what is happening in the world of cybersecurity, right? And why cybersecurity is important. Having said that, like any other thing, there are advantages, there are disadvantages of cybersecurity. So I want to quickly touch upon the topic of what are the advantages of the cybersecurity, and there are some disadvantages as well. Obviously, we will touch upon that as well. What we can do all as individuals in terms of putting the right security controls so that we can protect ourselves, so that we can protect our organization. So that's where we will be talking about some of the cybersecurity controls that we all can put in place to safeguard ourselves. And some of the best practices that we should be following day in, day out, whether we are talking about individual cybersecurity or whether we are talking about organizational level cybersecurity. Lastly, we will wrap it up talking about the future of cybersecurity, because this is a field which is evolving. There is too much to be done out here. There are new advancements happening every day, so we will be talking about the future of cybersecurity. To begin with the context setting, I would like to share this particular thought with you all, that when organizations or when individuals, they embark upon the journey of digital transformation, it requires security transformation as well in parallel, right? So digital transformation, security transformation, they are very closely linked, right? So digital transformations, they can create new cybersecurity risk as well, right? Whether it's a cybersecurity or in general the security risk. For example, right? So you talk about the increase of exposure of the sensitive data, right? So we all have sensitive data that we deal with, right? You have personal identifier information, you have health information, you have your email IDs, you have your credit card, financial information, so on and so forth, right? So the moment we talk about digital transformation, we are exposing, we have a tendency to expose our personal data, which can result in some kind of a theft, which can result in some kind of a breach, so on and so forth. So that's why cybersecurity or security transformation is required, and it can help to mitigate these kind of risks by allowing organizations, by allowing individuals to put the right security programs in place so that we all can safeguard ourselves. let me give you some context of why cybersecurity is important, right? So I'm pretty sure you all would have heard some kind of a security thefts. You all would have heard some kind of a data thefts or data breaches that are happening quite frequently these days, right? So some of the organizations, for example, SolarWinds, which experienced a data breach pretty recently. Uh, that particular breach impacted 18,000 customers, right? Which is a big number, right? And that kind of breach or that kind of theft can impact customers. They can impact organizations financially, as well as it can cause some kind of a reputational damage as well. So that's the kind of impact cybersecurity or cyber attacks can have on organizations, and it can have on individuals as well, right? So if you see on this particular statistics on the left hand side, you will see that the attack on organizations, cyber attacks on organizations, or the cyber attacks on individual, it has been increasing over the last few years, right? So there has been a consistent trend that individuals and organizations are experiencing with respect to cyber attacks or cyber crimes. And that's why cybersecurity is really, really important. And I would like to use this opportunity to introduce the concept of cybersecurity to you all today. So what is cybersecurity? Right, so cybersecurity in general, it's a practice, right, of how you protect your computer systems, how you protect the networks that we all use, right? We all use internet day in day out, right? So how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our computer networks? And more importantly, how do we protect the data that we all deal with from unauthorized access, from unauthorized use, from unauthorized disclosure, disruption, right? Or modification, so on and so forth. We do not want any individual to access the data that belongs to me. I do not want any attacker to modify the data that belongs to me, because if they are able to do that, they can cause severe damage to me, they can cause severe damage to my organization, so on and so forth. Right. So that's why today cybersecurity is more important than any other time or than ever before. Right. So at the same time, if you all see, we all live in digital world today, right? So the amount of sensitive data that we all store in our devices, right? Whether you talk about mobile devices, you talk about your laptops, you talk about your computer systems, so on and so forth, right? So we store a great deal of sensitive data, and we transmit this data electronically as well, right? So that's why uh, cybersecurity is really, really important. And cybersecurity is nothing but the practice of protecting this sensitive data. It's a practice of protecting the computer system and the networks that we use day in, day out, because these data, these network, these are really, really vulnerable to cyber attacks. So we need to make sure that we are protecting by putting the right security controls into the play. Now, just to give you a visual representation of why cybersecurity is important, having understood what cybersecurity is, uh, there has been an increased reliance on digital world today, right? So we all are living in the world, which we call it as an online world, right? Uh, so cybersecurity over the last couple of years or 4 or 5 years has become a necessity in today's world, where all the information is most often stored online, or it is easily available for anyone who wish to access it, right? So I'm pretty sure you all would have heard the news about Facebook. You all would have heard the news about Google, with regards to how these organizations, they practice the privacy of the data and their customers data, right? So it is really, really important to protect the data. And uh, more importantly, it is really important to understand how to handle confidentiality, how to handle sensitive information which is shared by the user, right? So in the absence of which there can be data breaches which can attack the personal information, right? So private data will no longer become private data. Attackers may hack the network. They may get access to your bank accounts. They may get access to the confidential data for an organization's credit card details. They can get access to uh, the data, which can cause severe harm to individuals and organizations. So that's why cybersecurity is really, really important. Uh, not only for individual, not only for organizations, but also cybersecurity is important to protect the national security as well, right? So I mean, if you see at an nation level, we need cybersecurity, we need cybersecurity measures and controls so that nations can protect themselves from cyber attackers or from hackers out there. Right. So if you see on this particular screen, there are advantages. As I mentioned in the beginning of my talk, whenever there are advantages, there are some disadvantages as well. Some of the disadvantages that you will see is that cybersecurity at times can become a very expensive effort for an organization if it is not rightly planned. So organizations and individuals need to make sure that they are doing the right planning to manage the cybersecurity program. Uh, it is from an implementation perspective, it can be complex to implement, which may result into higher cost and thereby becoming the cybersecurity, thereby making cybersecurity initiatives an expensive program. But irrespective of that, uh, organizations and individuals, they should follow the right practices to protect assets, to protect their network, no matter what, right? So because the cost of cyber crime, as you can see on the third bullet out here, it is expected to reach 10.5 trillion in 1 or 2 years from now. So that's why in order to lower the cost of the cyber crime, we all have the responsibility to make sure that we all follow the right security controls as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Now, with that said and done, I would like to talk about the CIA Triad, which generally stands for confidentiality. I stands for integrity, A stands for availability. So uh, that's the short term CIA Triad. It's an information security model which is designed to guide policies for information security, right? So there are policies, there are practices that are recommended so that we all as individual, so that the organizations that you work for, they can follow the right guidelines to protect the sensitivity of the data, to protect their networks, to protect their computer systems, thereby addressing confidentiality of the data and the systems, addressing the integrity and the availability of the systems as well. Now, we will go into the details of CIA, right? But at a very high level, confidentiality means how you can ensure that the information is only accessible to authorized users or to authorized systems, right? So if you have your Gmail account, if you have your Twitter account, if you have your LinkedIn account, you do not want anyone else to access that kind of an account, right? So you only want the authorized set of users to access your information to your accounts, your systems, so on and so forth. And that's what confidentiality on a very high level means, that ensuring that the information is available only to the authorized set of users. And now, why confidentiality is important? Because it helps us to protect the sensitive information from being accessed by unauthorized users, right? So you want to make sure that the confidentiality of data is taken care of so that any unauthorized user cannot access the sensitive information or sensitive data. Now, you may want to ask me, how do you categorize sensitive data, right? So generally, on a very high level, the personal data, for example, your name, your addresses, right, your uh, SSN number, SIN number, right, or the unique identifiers that we all use to pay taxes is considered to be a sensitive data. Similarly, your financial data is a sensitive data. Your credit card numbers, your bank account numbers, right? If you have any patents, right? So if you see from an organization perspective, some organizations will have some intellectual property, some patents. They want to protect that from going into the wrong hand. Your medical data. So all these kind of a data is categorized as sensitive data, and confidentiality helps you to protect these sensitive data uh, from going into the wrong hand. What you see on the bottom of this particular screen, often confidentiality can be interchangeably used with these kind of keywords like sensitivity, secrecy, privacy, isolation, so on and so forth. So don't be confused when you see any of these words, but And the key point with all these keywords that you see on this particular slide, in this particular slide, is around confidentiality, thereby protecting your sensitive information from being accessed by unauthorized users. So that's the first element of CIA Triad. The second element of the CIA Triad is integrity, which is the principle of maintaining accuracy and completeness of information, right? So, why integrity is important? Because it helps you to ensure that the information is reliable and trustworthy. Let me give you an example of integrity. So let's say you want to travel from your location to other location by an airline, right, or by an airplane. So uh, as you plan your travel, you want to make sure that whatever information you are getting with respect to your travel plans is accurate, it's reliable, worthy, right? So if your flight is scheduled to depart at, let's say, 8 p.m., you want to have that peace of mind that whatever information you are getting from the airline or from the internet is reliable, so that you can plan your trip accordingly. So that's what integrity is all about. It's a measure which helps you to ensure that the information that you are getting is reliable and it is trustworthy, so that you can do the business in the right manner. Uh, Integrity is really, really important for a number of reasons. For example, you want to prevent fraud. You want to make informed decision. You want to comply with legal and regulatory requirements, because in today's world, we all deal with sharing financial information over the internet, right? So there are certain regulatory compliances that we all need to subject to. So that's where integrity comes into the play, thereby ensuring that whatever information is shared with us is accurate, and we as individuals can rely on that particular information so that we can make informed decisions. So that's what integrity is all about. The last component of the CIA Triad is availability, which is the principle of ensuring that the information that you need is accessible, usable, and available when you need, right? So uh, critical example, you want to access Gmail, you want to access LinkedIn, you want to access Facebook, right? So you want to make sure that whenever you want to access these systems or these services are made available to the user. uh, there's a common trend that we have seen when we all do online shopping. We look for a product, we add that particular product into our cart, and we continue with the checkout process. If that particular information or if that particular website is not available at that point of time, the chances are higher the businesses or the organizations will lose that particular customer, at least for that point of time, or maybe for future as well. So that's why availability is really, really important, and organizations need to make sure that whatever information, whatever services, whatever processes or systems they are making available for use, they should be available 24 by 7. They should be accessible by the users at any given point of time. So that's why availability is really, really important, because it helps organizations to maintain the customer satisfaction. It helps them to prevent any kind of a financial loss, and it helps them to generate more revenue for themselves by creating that stickiness with the customer. So that's why confidentiality is really, really, availability is really, really important. Again, availability can be interchangeably used with accessibility. It can be used with agility. It can be interchangeably used with affordability as well. So that's what CIA stands for when it comes to the CIA triad. Uh, I'll cover one or two slides, and maybe then I'll take a pause to see if you have any questions for me. But we all understood by now, we all have covered what cybersecurity is, why it is important, what are the advantages and disadvantages of cybersecurity in general, and how you all and how organizations can protect themselves by leveraging the information security model, which is CIA Triad, from focusing on confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But it is really important for you to understand what are the motives behind these kind of cyber attacks, right? So there are attackers out there. Uh, of course, they have some objectives, they have some intent. for them to carry out these cyber crimes. And what you will see out here is they depending upon the attackers, they may have different motives, they may have different intentions. In general, the first motive or the most common motive is the financial gain, right? So cyber criminals or cyber attackers, they can steal money directly from the victims through their banks, through their credit cards, by creating some kind of an identity theft, so on and so forth, right? So once they capture this particular data, they can also steal the data, and they can share the data to other organizations as well, right? So we all see that uh, the senior citizens, they are normally uh, they're they're the most common victims, let me put it that way, is when it comes to these kind of attacks by the cyber attackers. They try to bully them, they try to lead them to the wrong direction so that they can get hold of their bank accounts, they can get hold of their financial information, so that they can cause damage to those individuals. uh, Other reasons could be challenge or thrill. So there are some cyber attackers, or there are some cyber criminals which are motivated by the challenge of hacking into the secure system. Their motivation is not to cause any financial impact, but they get that kick, they get that motivation that let's try this out, let's see if I can cause harm to a secure system, right? So it's more from a personal challenge perspective, it's more from a thrill perspective that they could perform these kind of an activities which can result into a cyber attack. Uh, Other motives could be to let's say create some kind of a disruption. So some cyber criminals, they are motivated by the desire to cause, let's say, damage or disruption, right? So they may bring down the systems, they may bring down the websites or the network, right? So that the organizations get impacted, right? Once a website is down, that in a way impact the business or impact the revenue for an organization. So these are some of the reasons uh, why cyber criminals, or why attackers are motivated to carry out these attacks or cyber crimes. You might be interested in knowing the nature of these kind of an attackers or hackers, right? So this is what I will be covering now. So there are different categories of cyber attackers, or cyber crimers, if you want to call it, for the lack of better words. Uh, Generally, there are like 6 or 7 categories of cyber attackers, but I will cover the most common ones out here. So what you see out here, the white hat hackers, the very first persona that you see on this particular slide, uh, these are called the ethical hackers, right? They use their skills to identify and report any security gaps within an organization or within a system, right? So these are the good hackers, I will call it, and that's why they are referred to as white hat hackers. So these are the hackers um, who perform hacking activities, but to benefit an organization or to benefit an individual or a group of individuals, so on and so forth. So these are the good peoples. Let me put it that way. On the opposite side, you will see the black hat hackers. So these are the hackers who are malicious hackers, who use their skill to gain unauthorized access to a computer system or to a network, right? So they may steal data, they may install virus in your laptops, in your computers, they may disrupt the operation. So these are the bad actors, and that's why they are referred to as black hat hackers, because their intent of carrying out cyber activity is purely to cause harm to individuals or to organizations, so that they can get unauthorized access, they can steal the data, and they can then cause harm to an organization. You also see persona on the left bottom, which is referred to as a gray hat hackers. So, gray hat hackers, they operate in between somewhere the white hat and the black hat, right? So that's why they are referred to as gray hat. They at times they use their skills to identify the security gaps, but they may not always report those gaps to the organizations that they might be working on, right? So they are basically the hackers which at times work as a good hacker, at times they work as a bad hackers, because if they identify some security gaps, they do not report those gaps to the organizations, as a result of which those gaps are never addressed, and which may eventually result into uh, some kind of uh, breach for an organization, or from some kind of a breach for an individual as well. And then there are other kind of hackers as well. You will see the red hat hackers, you have the blue hat hackers, you have script kiddies. So script kiddies are really a good one, because these are the hackers who are who use like readily available tools and script to launch attacks, right? So they may have limited understanding of the tools that they use, because they are just beginning on the journey of what it takes to be a good hacker, or what it takes to be a bad hacker. Right,
So,
talking about the most common attacks that you will see in the cybersecurity, right? So we will not go through all of these attacks in common. I will go through some of the ones which are more common ones. But this is really important for you to understand uh, what you should be really careful about, right? So the most common attack in cybersecurity world is around malware or phishing. I will say, I will to be more precise, phishing is the most common attack when it comes to cybersecurity, right? So what is phishing? It's a kind of a social engineering attack, where the attacker will try to trick the victim, so that you can reveal some sensitive information. So when you get calls from spam numbers, when you get emails from unknown senders, right, wherein they are trying to ask you to get some information, to reveal some information about yourself, that kind of attack is referred to as phishing attack, right? So they may try to get to a stage by tricking you so that you can reveal some sensitive information like your username, your password. So they may call you that we are calling from the support organization, can you please share your username with us? So if you end up sharing your username, or if you end up sharing your credit card number or any other personal information, you are subject to what we call it as a phishing attack, right? So they can be phishing attacks are the ones which can be carried out through emails, it can be done through text messages, it can be done through social media, so on and so forth. So it is really really important for you all to understand that phishing is the most common attack when it comes to cybersecurity. The whole objective behind, or whole intent behind phishing attack is to trick the victim so that you can reveal some kind of personal information to the attacker, and that information then can eventually be used by attacker against you itself. So my recommendation out here is, every time you get an email from an unknown sender, make sure you check out where that email has come from. Never ever open any attachment that you get in that particular email, because if you open that attachment can inject some kind of virus or malware into your system. And that's where I want to talk about the second common attack, which is malware. Malwares are the viruses that can harm your computer system, right? Right. So once installed in your personal devices, in your mobile devices, in your laptops, in your tablets, malware can automatically steal information from your devices. It can give unauthorized access to the owner of the malware as well. So again, be very very careful when it comes to malware or phishing. Make sure that you run antivirus softwares, you have antivirus programs in your laptops or in your devices, and you should periodically run those antivirus software so that you can identify, detect, and remove any virus that you may have in your devices. Uh, I want to talk about point number 9 that you see out here, which is DDoS attack. DDoS stands for denial of services attack, right? So as the name says, it is an attack where the attacker attempts to make the system or service unavailable to the user. So imagine that uh, I'm just taking a hypothetical example out here. You really want to buy a pair of shoes, right? So you have two options to buy that pair of shoes in an online manner. So you go to nike.com and you go to adidas.com or adidas.in or nike.in. You have identified the pair of shoes that you want to buy. There is an attacker out there who wants to disrupt the operation for Nike. So what they can do is they will initiate an attack by sending a lot of requests to Nike.in, as a result of which their website can go down, right? So uh, because of their website not available, because of their services not available to you, you may end up buying a product or service from Adidas, right? So that's what denial of service attack is all about, wherein an attacker tries to bring down the system, bring down the service to the user by sending a lot of traffic to that particular system or application. When successfully initiated, denial of services attack can cause severe impact to an organization. It can cause severe revenue loss. It can cause severe customer losing from that particular organization as well. Uh, we talked about malware, we talked about phishing attack, we talked about denial of services attack. Maybe one more attack that I want to talk about, which you will see in the context of cybersecurity, is the man in the middle attack, right? So uh, which is the point number 5 out here. Man in the middle attack is a kind of situation where an attacker will intercept the communication between the two parties. So let's say I am communicating with Ruma, right? So I'm sending her some message, and she is responding back to my message. Uh, Now there is an individual which is referred to as an attacker. That individual can get hold of that particular messages by intercepting the network that we are exchanging our information on. That is what is referred to as man in the middle attack, right? So this can allow the attacker to eavesdrop on the communication or steal the data or modify the data. So that's why it is recommended that whenever you are exchanging information, whenever you're doing some kind of a business transaction, make sure that uh, uh, you're following right protocols. For example, encryption is a great way to address man in the middle kind of an attack. So that whenever you are accessing websites, make sure that whatever website you are accessing, it follows encryption mechanism, so that the moment you share information, it is encrypted, and it will not make any sense to this kind of an attacker which tries to get hold of your information as you exchange information between the two parties. I will quickly move on to the next topic, which is around security control. So this is where I will go in little bit more detail of what we can do to protect ourselves and our organizations and the business that we deal in. Given that we all have a good understanding of cybersecurity and the related concepts that we have covered so far. Now we understood that there is definitely a cybersecurity risk that exists out there, and we definitely need some kind of protocols, we need some kind of a programs to protect ourselves and to protect the organizations that we work for from these kind of a cyber attacks. So that's where controls comes into the play. Security controls are the methods uh, or the practices that we can follow to put the right uh, programs into the place to address confidentiality, to address integrity, and to address the availability. Generally you will see that these controls, they fall under three buckets. One is technical control, the other is administrative controls, and the third is the physical controls. So let me talk on a high level what these controls are, and then you will be able to understand how do we go about these controls. So let me start with administrative controls. So as the name says, these are the controls that are designed to ensure that the people are aware and they follow security policies, right? So what you guys are doing today, what you all are doing today, you are enabling yourself on the concept of cybersecurity, how you can protect yourself, right? So think of this as one of the administrative controls, right? So when you train employees, when you create awareness, when you conduct trainings for yourself or for your employees, this is referred to as an administrative control. So this is just an example, right? There are other activities that you can do within the administrative controls, but this is just a way of uh, defining what administrative controls are all about, right? So in general, examples of administrative controls, they include awareness training. It's all about incident reporting procedures, right? So if something goes wrong, how do you go about it, right? So if somebody steals your information, that is an incident, right? So how do you go about that particular incident? First of all, you will go and call your bank so that they can block your credit card, right? You will go and check your bank accounts. You will put your bank accounts on freeze. You will report that particular incident, so on and so forth. So these kind of controls are referred to as administrative controls. Next up is the technical controls. So these are the controls that are designed to protect your information systems and data by putting the softwares into the place, right? So how do you encrypt your data? How do you put the firewalls into the place? So these kind of, when you put softwares to protect your information, to protect your system, to protect your data, those kind of controls are referred to as technical controls. The last control is the physical controls. So when you protect your systems, when you protect your data, right, by using means which you can feel and touch, those type of controls are referred to as physical controls. Example, when you put security guard, right? So if you're living in an apartment, I'm pretty sure there will be security guards at the entrance. There will be CCTV cameras, there will be access control systems, so on and so forth. So when you put these kind of controls into the play, what you are basically doing is you are putting the physical controls into the play. So now think from an organization perspective, uh, right? When an organization or when a business wants to protect themselves and safeguard themselves from cyber security attacks, uh, they need to put all these kind of controls into the play. It's not that one control works better over the other. It's a combination of all these three controls that we need to put into the place so that you can ensure the security of the business. You can ensure the security of the assets in totality by putting the physical controls, technical controls, and administrative controls into the play. uh, I will s- I will given we have like 13 more minutes, I will quickly go through this, and feel free, if you have any questions, please raise hand and I can double click on it. But we have already touched some of these topics out here. So how do we ensure confidentiality? Make sure that you are using the right encryption for sensitive data. You have the right access controls. You have put in the right physical controls so that you can make sure that you have CCTVs in place. If something goes wrong, you can track it down. You regularly train your employees, create awareness so that they know that what phishing attack is and how an employee can protect themselves by not falling victim to what we call it as a phishing attack or social engineering attack. In terms of integrity, how do you ensure integrity? By making sure that you review the logs on a daily basis. So that's where SIM system comes into the play. As you can see on the right, top right, SIM, which is security and incident event management. So think of it as a system which will capture, which will consume the logs from all the systems. It will run the algorithm and see if there is any behavior which is not common. And if that kind of a behavior is identified, it will allow the user to act upon it, that because this may be the case of a data breach or information breach, so on and so forth. So those, again, SIM is a technical control which you can put into the play, so make sure that if there is any abnormal activity, it should be flagged out. So that's what the principle of SIM is all about. One important thing that I want to talk about on this particular slide is the concept of least privilege. Principle of least privilege says that if you are an employee within an organization, you should be given uh, uh, privileges, or you should be given access to only what you need to do to perform your job, right? So if you are a database administrator, you should only be given access to a database, and you should only be given access that is needed for you to perform your job. You should not be given access to any other system. If you are a receptionist, you should be given access to the systems that are only meant to perform your job. If you are a senior manager within your organization, you should have access to only the system that you need to perform your job. So uh, why is this important? Because if you are given access to systems or data or resources which are beyond the need of what you need to do, it may result in what we call it as an excess elevation of excess privileges, because of which, if your account gets hacked, the attacker can access systems which he or she should not be able to do that. So that's why it is really important to make sure that You only give what is needed, is what least privilege is all about. How do you ensure availability? By deploying a redundant system. So if system A goes down, system B should be made available automatically. So going back to the example of Nike and Adidas that I talked about, if an attacker tries to bring down the Nike system, Nike should make sure that they have other redundant system into the play, that if the server in the India region goes down, they should make sure that the traffic is routed to another region, which is the closer region to India. It can be APAC, it can be any other region where the data center should be made available, so that their business does not get impacted. So that's why availability is really important. And the way you ensure that, by bringing in capabilities of redundant systems, so that uh, any business transaction does not get lost or does not get terminated by the efforts of these attackers. You ensure availability by regularly testing and maintaining your systems as well, right? So you need to make sure that you are looking for any vulnerability or any weakness in the systems. And how do you do that? By regularly testing those systems, that if those systems are up to date, right? Uh, by doing so, you make sure that your systems are made available whenever it is needed. All right. I am towards the end of my discussion. I will quickly talk about some of the cybersecurity practices that we all should be following. So, first and foremost, think before you click. It is the most important cybersecurity practice that you all should be following, right? So, uh, do not do not click on something that you don't trust. Do not open an unattended attachment, I will say. So that's really, really important. Second, security practice, and these practices that I'm talking about, the cybersecurity practices, these are relevant for all of us as individual, and these are relevant from an organizational point of view. So, uh, use strong and varied passwords. So do not use simple passwords like welcome123 or hello123, so on and so forth. So whenever you are creating passwords, make sure that you are using passwords which are not easily guessable, right? And one statistics with you all, that if you have passwords which are less than 8 characters, right? So those passwords can be cracked within milliseconds by attackers. So whenever you are creating passwords, make sure that they are at least 8 characters long, and you should use different characters to create those passwords. You should use small case, you should use uppercase, you should use numbers, you should use special characters in that particular password. So the more complex password you try to keep, the tough it will be for an attacker to crack that particular password or guess that particular password. So 8 characters should be the minimum. The more characters you use, the longer it will take for an attacker to guess or break that particular password. Next up is multi-factor authentication. So this is really, really important. I'm pretty sure you all would have experienced this, because most of the banks today use the concept of multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, wherein when you log in into the bank, you put in your user ID and password. You are presented with an OTP. You need to put in that OTP into the system. So when you follow that particular process, that is referred to as two-factor. Organizations today use three-factor authentication as well, wherein you need to present three pieces of information before you can access the system or the process that you are party to, right? So in general, when we talk about multi-factor authentication, there are three key elements that you should be looking after. First is what you know, that is your password. Second is what you have, which is your tokens or OTPs. And third is who you are. This is where the biometrics comes into the play. So when you give your thumbprint impression or when you do that retinal scan, so those are all example of what you are, right? So when you're using a combination of all three or maybe two of all these three factors that I talked about, it is referred to as multi-factor authentication. So wherever possible, set up two-factor authentication at least, if not three-factor authentication, right? So today, you talk about Gmail, you talk about Hotmail, right? You talk about any other services, they all support two-factor authentication. So do not just rely on one-factor authentication. Make sure that you enable two-factor authentication to protect yourself. Next up is about using firewalls and antivirus. We talked about it. This will help you to protect from viruses, will help you to protect from malware and from phishing attacks as well, because If you get an email from an unknown sender, most likely antivirus should be able to detect that this may be a spam. Are you sure you want to open this? So when you see these kind of messages, you can assure that that antivirus is into the place. So that's why make sure you're using antivirus softwares which are up to date. Do not use the free antivirus programs, because they will not give you the latest and the greatest capabilities to protect you uh, from these kind of attacks. Phishing attacks, we talked about it enough in great deal, so I will skip through this and I will talk about the next five one, which is do not download unnecessarily. If you don't need anything, do not download it, right? So, because once you download, uh, something that you don't need, chances are the owner of that particular file, or that owner of that particular system might have injected some viruses, right? Their intent might be to inject some virus into your laptop. So when you use USBs from one computer to other computer, chances are, if you're not receiving that from a trusted source, chances are there might be virus in there. Avoid using the use of debit cards in an online manner. So never ever use your debit cards when you're doing online transactions. uh, Try using your credit card, but never use debit cards when you're doing online transaction, no matter how secure the website is. But if possible, try and avoid using your debit cards. uh, there is nothing like free lunch. Always remember that. So never use public Wi-Fi without a VPN. Never ever use public Wi-Fi. As I mentioned, they it is really easy for an attacker to get hold of your network, or to get hold of your data or system in a free Wi-Fi kind of a setting, right? So if possible, if you don't need, do not use free Wi-Fi. If you have to use it with a VPN, because VPN, which is virtual private network, it will allow you to encrypt the traffic even when you're using a public Wi-Fi or a free Wi-Fi. uh, do not go to unfamiliar websites. Pretty simple, straightforward. If you don't trust a website, don't go there. If you go to a website and if you don't see the lock icon on the web URL, it means that particular website is not secure. So do not go to those kind of websites. And you all know what kind of websites I'm referring to, so I will not go there. But yeah, never ever go on websites which are not secure. And lastly, keep your systems updated, right? So this is the most basic cybersecurity tip, that use the latest and the greatest. If like all we all get the updates for our mobile devices, we update and make our devices safe. So you should follow the same practices for your organizational systems as well, and for your other devices that you use on a day-to-day basis as well. I think I will call it a wrap. The future of cybersecurity in the context of India is really, really interesting. As we talked about, this is a field which is ever evolving, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning coming into the play, with cloud computing, mobile computing coming into the play. This is the future. There is a great opportunity as far as the jobs are concerned, right? So uh, I will say this is the right track to focus on, not only from protecting yourself, but also if you want uh, to develop your careers into the field of cybersecurity, right? So there are different roles, there are different personas that you can contribute as a cybersecurity professional. Uh, if this is an area of interest, please, I'm available. Should you need any inputs from me, should you need any coaching from me, I'm more than happy to help and connect. You can connect me on LinkedIn. And with this, I will take a pause and happy to take any questions if you have for me. If not, I sincerely thank you all for attending and giving me the opportunity to share my learnings and thought process with you all.
We nowadays we use a lot of cloud platforms, like Google Drive is one platform, or Apple Cloud is one platform. So how safe our data is there? Do we need to worry about keeping our personal data there, or is it totally secured, or which one is better? Any insight on that, please? That would really help.
Absolutely, Roma. So that's a good question, right? So we all are using cloud computing platform in some form of the shape. And what I want to assure you is, working for Google, which is one of the top three Google cloud platforms out there. we as an organization, we take utmost care of putting the right security controls into the play to make sure that all the customer data is protected in the right manner. And when I say we, I'm referring to AWS, I'm referring to Azure Cloud, I'm referring to Google Cloud, right? So all the organizations, they have like hundreds of security controls that we follow day in day out to make sure that all of your data in the data center is protected. um, I will I have a video which talks about how easy and how tough it is for someone outside the organization to access that particular customer data. So that will give you an idea that it is really, really tough for an attacker to get data out of these cloud vendors' data center. Ultimately, it boils down to you as an individual to make sure that you are following the right security practices on your end. But as far as your data within the data center is concerned, when Gmail or Workspace is concerned, it is 200% safe when it is in these data centers.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy to hear that. So we have participants raising hands here. I will just allow them to unmute and they can ask questions. So we have Sanjeev here. Sanjeev, I would unmute you. Please unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Okay, very good evening, ma'am, and very good evening to sir also. Sir, I want to ask one question over there. Is there any institute, a certified institute is there, through that we can do the any certified course for the future for our children?
For cybersecurity, yes. So there,
Yeah.
uh, that depends upon how young your children are, but there are institutes that will help you to prepare about cybersecurity, and depending upon the age of your kids, you can start the journey accordingly. If your kids are young, I will say just start with the introduction to cybersecurity. Like there are many free courses available out there which will create that awareness. Make sure that your kids are really interested in going into that particular field, right? So that's really, really important. But to answer your point, yes, there are institutes, there are courses, free courses and paid courses, which will help you set your kids for success in this particular field of cybersecurity. And this field is here to stay, right? So it's not that like any other technology, the cybersecurity will be here for like next 3 or 4 years. We see that cybersecurity is here to stay for next 10 to 12 years, right? So make sure that you are investing in the right careers for your kids.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev, for asking this question. Before I allow other participants to ask questions, my team member Shivani would be sharing a feedback form in the chat window. Shivani, I request you to please share the feedback form. I would request all of you to please fill the feedback form honestly and give us your feedback if there are any areas of improvements or appreciations. Really happy to hear that and work upon that. I would request Sakshi to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Thank you for the wonderful webinar. It was informative. I would like to ask my question about the security of our social media accounts. Many a times it happens that we receive requests from friends telling us that their accounts have been hacked and we have to report and block their accounts. So they send the same request to many of their friends. In that span, the hacker might breach the data. They might steal the data or misuse the data, posting various unimportant or irrelevant information from their social media account whose account has been hacked. So in that span, what can the owner of that account do? Because it takes a lot of time for that account to be blocked, apart from the multi-factor authentication, because that has already not been done because the account has been hacked. Thank you.
Yeah, so the way I look at this is from two folds perspective. One is pre and one is post. So I'm assuming you mentioned that from a pre-activities perspective, you already have either enabled two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, or if you missed out enabling that, because of which the account might have been compromised. Assuming the account has been compromised, you will not like it, but there is very little that you can do at that point of time till the time you actually block that particular account. The best steps in general that you can take is you can reach out to the uh, support team of that particular organization to make sure that you flag this out as an urgent issue, and organizations can either deactivate the account or put the account in a rogue account as a rogue account immediately. So just make sure that you give your account ID or user account or username, whatever it be, to the support team and request them to flag that account right away, so that any further damage can be caused by the attacker on that particular account. But in general, as I know, we all have a very heavy social presence today, right? Especially the teens and the young today. I don't have. I'm only available on LinkedIn. I'm no on no other social platform. But whenever you have a social presence on these online platforms, I will say some of the best practices that you should follow is: number one, right away enable two-factor authentication. Make sure you review the privacy settings, right, in terms of what you want to share, what you want to be seen in the outer world. Make sure your softwares are up to date. Make sure you report any suspicious activity on your account or on the account of the network that you are connected to, right? So that's one. And another important aspect is be aware of the risk of using the third party apps. So third party apps, they can trick you, and they can access your social media data around. When I say third party access, I'm pretty sure you would have seen that when you go to, let's say, Facebook, you will see ads coming in on your profile, right? So those are third party apps. So if you subject to those third party apps, what you are doing is you are consenting that third party app to access your data, your information. So make sure you select those third party app, or you consent to those third party app in a very conscious manner. If you trust them, then only consent. If not, do not do that. So these are some of the best practices that you can do to protect yourself and safeguard yourself in the case of social media. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalra, for the answer. There is one question from Mr. Jaga here. He wants to know, is AI good or evil for cybersecurity?
uh, it is a mix of both. If you use AI in the right context, it can be a bliss. But at this point of time, I will say it's a mixed reaction that we see from an industry, right? So uh, there are organizations, and if I talk about my organizations, we are using AI uh, to make sure that we use the best possible aspects of the artificial intelligence and bring that particular knowledge in the product and services, so that we can help our customers, we can help the individuals benefit from it. But there, on the other side, on the dark side of it, there are individuals who are trying to leverage the capabilities of the AIs to to trick individuals to misuse the capabilities of the artificial intelligence, right? So that's why it is really, really important about, I talked about the concept of awareness and training. So that's really, really important, so that if you are trained, if you are aware, you may not fall victim to those dark side of the artificial intelligence that exist out here. But unfortunately, there are good and there are bad sides of how AI is being used today.
Thank you. We have one more question from Pragya. Pragya, you can unmute yourself now and ask your question.
Hi, hello. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for this session. It was really wonderful. One of my biggest apprehensions in attending this webinar was whether you'd come with some jargons that a tech noob like me would not understand. But thankfully, you made it really easy to understand. My question is, how do I try and make my parents understand how they can protect themselves online? Uh, for them internet is a big chaos where it's good morning with a pigeon or Facebook logins everywhere, and sharing anything anywhere or not sharing anything at all. So how do I make them understand what they can share, what information they can give to whom, and where is it safe to log in, where is it safe to put any information?
I think that's a good question, and I do this every day with my mom here as well. I think it's our responsibility to educate our parents on what cybersecurity and the impacts of cyber attacks or cyber crimes are. What you can do, Pragya, in general is uh, in the beginning help them in terms of what needs to be shared and how it needs to be shared, right? So don't ask them to share it by themselves. I will say you review what they want to share and you guide them and you coach them in terms of what is the right way to share. um, at the same time, request your parents not to share any information to any individual, right? Whether it's through phone calls, whether it's through text messages, whether it's through emails, so on and so forth. Just request them to seek that guidance from you before they share any piece of personal information to any individual who may be trying to trick them. uh, I covered some of the best practices on slides, right? You will have the access to the slide at some point of time, but in one of the slides, I talked about think before you click. Ask them not to open anything that they don't trust. They should reach out to you, seek your guidance if it is okay to click and see an attachment, right? Because the moment they do that, that's they may fall victim. So uh, not to click anything, not to attend, not to reply back to text messages. Anytime they need to share any personal information, they should either consult you or they should double think that is this the right person whom I'm sharing the information with. So there is a concept of zero trust in cybersecurity. I will make it real quick. I know we are top of the hour. Zero trust means do not trust anybody when you are sharing your personal information, right? So they should follow the concept of zero trust only and only in the case of when sharing the personal information. I hope that helps, Pragya.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sachin, for this wonderful, informative session on cybersecurity. I think we have a lot of takeaway from today's session. We have touched upon what cybersecurity is, why it is important, what type of hackers are there, why they are actually, what is their intention behind hacking and, entering into this field of cybercrime, and what are the most common attacks that are there. So the session indeed was very informative, and I'm sure we all have learned a lot today. And as rightly mentioned by Pragya, instead of the techie jargons, the session was in a language which the layman like us we understood. So thank you again for taking out time for us. I'm sure it's early morning for you there, and so thank you again for taking out time and conducting the wonderful session for all of us.
Like I said,
Thank
it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity and happy to collaborate.
Thank you. And to all the participants for staying with us for 1 hour, 15 minutes. I really, appreciate to be here and, being patient. And thank you to everyone who attended today's webinar. So thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.